Hey everyone, welcome to today's session as we walk through our latest public cloud security news. My name is Scott Barlow, Vice President of Global MSP and Cloud Alliances. I am very excited today to be joined by Ryan Orsi, Amazon Web Services, Worldwide Security MSSP Practice Lead, as well as Bill Prout, Director of Global Solution Engineering here at Sophos. We entitled this session Managed AWS Security, even at 3 a.m. and over the holidays, and we truly do mean that. One thing that I always hear from customers and partners is how they can sleep at night and over the weekends and over holidays, and that is very important to us, and we are obsessed with your security. So today, we are going to cover three main topics. First, we're going to take a brief look at how the AWS Level 1 MSSP competency has emerged and what the role of Sophos is. Secondly, we will spend time to review the new cybersecurity package that Sophos has actually created for AWS customers. It's the Sophos Threat Protection Monitoring and Response Package that combines cloud security posture management and compliance with firewall, cloud workload protection, as well as endpoint protection. That is all wrapped and backed by the Sophos Managed Threat Response Service to continuously monitor AWS environments and analyze and triage security events. And lastly, but most importantly, why this combination of best practice protection, 24/7 monitoring and response, and flexible purchasing in AWS Marketplace is so attractive to modern organizations like yourself bracing the cloud. So without further ado, I'd like to kick it over to Ryan Orsi to talk a little bit about the AWS Partner Network and the MSSP program. Ryan, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Scott. And hello, everyone. This is Ryan Orsi, and let me offer a warm welcome from the AWS Partner Network's Security and MSSP team. We're a group of security passionate people inside AWS. And what we do on a daily basis is we work with customer security use cases. We really try to understand customers' security challenges, and then we work with partners such as Sophos to help them develop and bring to market different solutions aimed to assist our mutual customers with their security assessments, design, and 24/7 management needs. You'll notice if you were to look us up, we also manage a couple of partner programs. Today, we're talking about the Level 1 MSSP competency. We also manage the security competency for the AWS Partner Network. And it's my pleasure to spend a few moments here to speak with you specifically on the topic of Level 1 managed security services and why this is so important to your business for your AWS workload needs. Let me begin first by discussing a subject we like to call operationalizing security in the cloud. And what this really breaks down to is think of it like a mental governance model, if you will. There has always been the AWS shared responsibility model, which is on the screen here. This really is just a definition in blue and orange of the different security responsibilities of AWS, the cloud. The AWS cloud is in charge of basically the security of the cloud, the software, the compute resources running the underlying infrastructure. And the customer, yourselves, are responsible for the security in the cloud. So any data that you upload into your AWS environments or applications that you upload into your environment, that's where your responsibility lies for securing those particular pieces. And the term operationalizing that security is really important to grasp. And what we mean by operationalizing, it's selecting the right security software tools, the right people in your organization or in third-party organizations, and the right processes. And let me kind of just spend a moment to kind of double-click that. The right security software tools. So what I mean by that is there are, of course, cloud-native security tools that you can leverage. There's also third-party tools from excellent security partners like Sophos that have taken some of those native tools, they've built on top of them, and they've really enhanced and expanded the capability. So having the right selection of software tools to watch the specific areas in your AWS environment for security threats and incidents is really what we're talking about. And we will define, of course, the right set of areas in just a moment. People, right? So having skilled in-house or third-party accessible individuals that are skilled with these particular software tools. So whether that is, for example, being able to use a SIM to be able to respond to events that are inside of your central, kind of alert system, or responding and managing to maybe native security tools like Guard Duty or Security Hub, or even leveraging some of the Sophos stack here and what they have to offer. So people that are familiar with how to operate these security tools are really important. And the process. Now, what's important about the process is that there's a well-defined process for most of what you can predict may happen on a bad day for your company, right? So if there's a security incident, what is the process you have in place to respond to that incident, to investigate it, to triage it, to find root cause? And if that incident is related to a firewall event or an edge security event, it's a bit of a probably different process for your people to respond to than if it's related to the application or the web server or the actual workload or the server running your application. So having those well-defined processes with the people that are skilled to operate the tools, those three things combined are really what we mean when we say operationalizing security in the cloud is of the utmost importance in your AWS environment. Now, what we just introduced recently is the topic of today. The level 1 managed security services was just announced by our CISO, Stephen Schmidt, at our annual security conference, Reinforce. If you'd like to go watch that keynote, just take a screen cap of that URL there. Sorry, it's a little bit long, but you'll be able to see, sort of what is level 1 managed security services. It's a definition. Let's go ahead and kind of spell it out here, of a new technical baseline that everyone running something in AWS can refer to when you were determining what specific areas of that AWS environment should be monitored for security events around the clock, 24/7, and it includes operational guidance. And that operational guidance is suggested guidance on what specific metadata should be, at minimum included in a security event coming from your AWS cloud. Metadata can be things like the tag used on an EC2 instance, or the name of a VPC, so that you can understand if this event came from your QA, your quality assurance environment, or your test environment, or your production environment. So, what I would suggest is to learn more here. Go to that checklist URL here in the bottom left. Check if you're currently doing level 1 managed security services in your AWS environment. You could actually check this out on your own right now. Of course, after you watch this, but you can take a look at specifically these level 1 managed security service areas. There's 10 of them. We'll get to go define all 10 of those in just a moment on the next slide. But I would highly recommend go look at that checklist. A lot of effort and thought was put in from security experts all around AWS and in partnership with Sophos during a pilot phase of this program before we launched it, in deciding exactly what 10 areas are the most important to watch. These are kind of your minimum areas. Of course, there'll always be more. Security is a constant evolving landscape out there. But these are a good starting point of 10 areas to make sure you're watching them, you're monitoring for events from those 10 areas, you have a response plan in place, or you're working with a level 1 MSSP partner like Sophos to be able to provide that service for you if you don't have all that in-house expertise. Let's go ahead, and I think it's worthwhile to step through what exactly the 10 level 1 managed security services are. And you don't have to memorize or screenshot any of this. The URL is hopefully pretty easy to remember. Just aws.amazon.com/MSSP will get you to all of this information plus a bit more as well. The first area is what we call AWS infrastructure vulnerability scanning. This is basically a technical definition, a set of requirements that points to your AWS environment, and it allows you to routinely scan your AWS infrastructure for known software vulnerabilities. So no doubt you're using different software tools and applications in your environment. And this is a mechanism, a service, if you will, to make sure that you're monitoring for known vulnerabilities. There are some native tools in AWS that get this job done. And of course, there are some third-party tools. The second area is AWS Resource Inventory Visibility. So this is a continuous scan and reporting of all of your AWS resources and their configuration status. Of course, you probably heard the old saying, you cannot protect or defend what you can't see. So you first need to make sure across your company that you have visibility of all of your EC2 instances or containers, or any workload running in AWS should be visible to you. So this is a service that's specifically aimed at making sure you see a complete inventory of your visibility, and that shadow IT, at least in the cloud, doesn't impact you negatively. The third area is AWS Security Best Practices Monitoring. So every native service in AWS, whether it's S3, EC2, they have a security configuration best practice defined for them. And this is a service which monitors for those specific best practices against all the native services that you may be using. And it detects misconfigurations and alerts the person or the system monitoring for this specific area, if that misconfiguration occurs. Common examples would be maybe an S3 bucket open to the internet when it's not intended to be. The fourth area is AWS compliance monitoring. So we've taken some of the most common compliance areas like CIS, AWS foundations, PCI DSS, HIPAA. I think the MITRE attack framework is also included in here as well. And this is a service which just monitors your AWS environment for compliance status against those specific standards, and alerts the system or person or people monitoring for that specific area. The fifth is monitor and triage security events. This is the service which is able to monitor all these areas that we're looking at on our screen here, and the other 5 will be displayed here in just a moment, for security events, and providing recommended remediation guidance or full remediation. Remediation, right, is just the ability for, if a security event occurs, that there is a recommendation to take action, such as close that port, shut down that server, change that IP address, for example. Those are kinds of examples of remediation guidance, and that needs to be a part of the service offering as well. The sixth area is really just to make sure that number 5 is happening around the clock, 24/7. You've probably heard the old saying again, the attackers are not working 8 to 5. It happens around the clock, 24/7. So your managed security services should all be monitored for around the clock as well. Number 7 is distributed denial of service, or DDoS mitigation. So this has to do with the edge of your cloud environment. You should have a service in place to be able to monitor for potential DDoS attacks that can really impact your service availability of your applications or your workloads that are running in the cloud. And this is the ability to detect that, prevent that, and mitigate it. The 8th area is managed intrusion prevention system, or otherwise known as IPS. This is a defensive service that defends against known threat patterns, typically on the web portal side, and it increases your overall security posture in your cloud environment. Next up, the 9th area is managed detection and response. A common term, I think, out there in the world, MDR, but specifically MDR for AWS-based endpoints. An endpoint, right, is an EC2 instance, or an application, or a workload, or a container, or a serverless routine running. This is a combination of software running on those endpoints, monitoring for threats at the endpoint level, and human beings, experts trained in the AWS security environment, looking for potential security threats, investigating potential threats, detecting them, and of course, removing them if they occur. And the 10th and final area is managed web application firewall, or otherwise known in the industry as WAF. This protects your web-facing applications and your APIs against some common exploits that are very prevalent out there on the internet. So that bundle, that combination of these 10 areas, we call them level 1 managed security services. That is the 10 that we are basically, we provided a technical definition on the checklist on the previous slide. This is not a technical checklist here, but you can actually check in your organization, do you currently cover these 10 areas? If you cover 3 of 10, I highly recommend you cover the other 7. If you're covering 5 on your own and you need help for the other 5, that's a great reason to be working with a partner like Sophos, who's in the level 1 MSSP Competency Program. Speaking of the competency program, Sophos has been with us every step of the way. This is a very strategic partner program that we've been working on for, gosh, over a year. It was just announced and released in August 24th at our Reinforce conference, as you saw on the previous slide. And this is a collaboration between the AWS Partner Network and the AWS Marketplace. So basically, Sophos is one of the launch partners, so one of the very first partners to have their level 1 managed security bundle validated against the AWS technical requirements for all of those 10 areas. And it's available on the marketplace for easy procurement, making the transaction very simple, just added to your existing monthly AWS bill. So it's been a very enjoyable process working with Sophos, and I want to thank Scott and the whole team there at Sophos for the tight collaboration and partnership in this level 1 MSSP competency program. And I'm going to hand it back over to you, Scott, to take it from here.
Thanks, Ryan. That's great stuff, man. So I wanted to touch a little bit about Sophos. For those of you who are not already familiar with Sophos, we are a next generation cybersecurity company, and our mission is very simple. It's to protect people and businesses from cybercrime. And we do that via a combination of powerful and intuitive products and services that provide effective and comprehensive cybersecurity for organizations of all sizes. And when we say comprehensive, we mean that we cover networks, data, user and device protection. And we do that for on-prem networks, remote users, and of course, the cloud. We've actually been working with AWS since AWS Marketplace was launched. And we're proud to bring that full circle today as a launch partner for the AWS Level 1 Managed Security Service Provider Program to provide organizations like Celiacs, which we'll talk about in a second, with an easy button for cloud security. So let me break down the Sophos package that is available today via AWS MSSP program. If you and your customers lack the in-house resources or time to manage cloud security yourselves, this package, bundled with Managed Threat Response, which we call MTR, was specifically designed with AWS to take some of the cloud security weight off of your shoulders. If you have the capabilities internally to do active threat hunting yourselves, you can certainly leverage our XDR solution and our data lake that will ingest the telemetry from endpoint, server, firewall, and AWS so that you can run live queries to search across your environment. The Sophos AWS MSSP bundle fuses automated protection across cloud workloads, virtual networks, and endpoints. And you combine that with the Sophos 24/7 managed threat response service to create a single cybersecurity package to secure data, proactively prevent vulnerabilities, and block advanced threats. So you, the customer or the partner, will have a dedicated team of security experts from our MTR service, continuously monitoring your AWS environment to respond to these security events. Again, 3 a.m. in the morning, weekends, holidays, it doesn't matter. There's also a very flexible deployment approach, which allows protection to be managed in-house by the customer if you resell through a Sofos MSP to ensure the correct deployment configuration and day-to-day security management, or as a third option, Sophos professional services team can help with the initial deployment and implementation. And from an AWS platform perspective, it helps customers achieve greater value from key AWS services like AWS CloudTrail, Amazon GuardDuty, and AWS Security Hub. As security findings from these services are analyzed, the risk is assessed, and prioritize to ensure nothing is lost in the noise or your cloud environment. Let's look at how celiacs efficiently maintains security best practices. The celiacs team has intuitively designed their environment to adhere to the best practices and standards that were established by AWS and to establish a robust security foundation, including organization, account structures, controlling access, locking down root accounts, regular backup schedules with backup data in private storage that is not attached at a network level or workload level. The value of Sophos Cloud Security Posture Management, which we call Cloud Optics, is that it allowed celiacs to continuously monitor their environment and point out when exceptions or changes are being made while having a tool which learns the behavior. For Dinesh, Cloud Optics' power was in identifying unusual changes, but without telling him the same things. It acted as a filter on top of AWS services, including Amazon Guard Duty, to prioritize the information they get from that service. And as you can see from Dinesh's quote, Sophos help verify we are following a proper security checklist, helping us tackle low-hanging fruit or obvious matters for a quick win, which is fantastic. Looking beyond the technology to threat intelligence was another key for celiacs, as they require the best protection and monitoring, but not to the detriment of their systems. Dinesh's #1 recommendation here was to apply security updates as regularly as possible. Don't take additional risk by not patching because you don't want them to go offline briefly, but this clearly needs discipline. This means implementing workload anti-malware solutions that are lightweight and keep updated on the latest threats with artificial intelligence or AI to recognize never before seen threats, eliminating any possible disruption for continuous operation and streamlining company resources. At Sophos, we actually take this a step further to include container image scanning to identify vulnerabilities present in a container image before they are exploited in attacks. And further still, to create threat hunting connections across your entire cloud environment, connecting these areas for stronger security. So improving threat detection and response in AWS with XDR. An example of XDR in action: chasing down attacks through cloud environments can be tough if you don't know what to look out for, and sometimes even if you do. That's why Sophos Cloud Workload Protection with XDR, Extended Detection and Response, now includes new AWS Cloud Environment data sources from Cloud Optics with easy to follow queries to help while you investigate incidents in AWS. That just so happens to map to key elements of the MITRE ATT&CK IaaS matrix. Cloud Optics processing and analysis of AWS environment data. It includes XDR data lake queries associated with the MITRE ATT&CK matrix. And we can also help identify attacker techniques. Things like initial access, where we can identify attacker techniques that use various entry points to gain their initial foothold within an environment. For instance, login attempts to the AWS console or assumed IAM roles. Persistence. So it's techniques adversaries use to maintain a foothold and keep access across the cloud environment. For instance, a new set of credentials. Privileged escalation, those techniques that allow them to obtain a higher level of permission. For instance, where AWS IAM user had been added to an IAM group. Or exfiltration, the techniques used by hackers to steal files and backups from a cloud account and send them to a different destination controlled by the attacker. For instance, changes the cloud server snapshot attribute that could allow resources to be copied, moved, and made publicly available. And I wanted to just blow this image up a little bit because I think when you look at some of these canned live queries where you can look at firewall ATP detections, firewall data on cloud apps, etc., and then you can enrich that information from third-party websites, it's really fantastic. And it's amazing to play with, to actually see what's happening within not only your cloud environment, but perhaps your on-prem network, and across the hybrid configuration that a lot of customers have these days. And then the best part is all of that information in XDR and the data lake is then connected to managed threat response. So that is exactly what connected the dots for celiacs, is the managed services component. As the team there put it, bad guys will work 24/7 and attack at the most inconvenient times. And we see this day in and day out. You know, it could be a holiday. We saw a pretty big attack right before the 4th of July holiday weekend here in the US with a rebel attack. And so they attack at the worst time. You want somebody to be watching 24/7, even at 3 a.m., weekends and holidays. For a lot of IT teams, you know, large or small, it's not realistic to keep a team monitoring security around the clock. As in terms of career development, they should be focused on core areas of responsibility and skills development, as was the case with celiacs, whose sysadmin needed to focus on software development and not solely on monitoring their security. And that's what the Sophos managed threat response team did for them, and that's when we came in. The team take a proactive action and apply security updates as regularly as possible, preemptively reaching out and advising celiacs on recommended next steps and recommendations in general, with lots of moving parts in their architecture. This support was hugely valuable to them. The team at celiacs are also big believers in automating tasks and working smarter. And so it was reassuring when Sofos MTR signaled unusual activity when they were applying scripts or changing their release processes. It's proof that the Sophos service was working and is working as it should, and while also enabling their team to actually go faster. Sophos Managed Threat Response Service receives telemetry from all of the Sophos products deployed in AWS, from the cloud security posture management, cloud optics, workload protection, which is server with XDR, to the XG firewall, as well as intelligence from the AWS services. So with cloud optics, we're able to pull that intelligence and telemetry and alerts from GuardDuty, from CloudTrail, Security Hub, and that enables 24/7 threat protection, monitoring, and response across the AWS environment. So if you're wondering what MTR looks like, we actually provide a variety of different reports for the customer as well as partners. This screenshot I took, you can look at how many devices are actually protected with MTR, the number of detections, how many cases, escalations, incidents, and then you can look at that 20 hours after a detection, and if it was a medium or high severity, and then the number of monthly detections. And if there is something that we find, we can actually produce a timeline of an attack. And here's a great example. When we first launched MTR, where we saw some malicious activity happening, and then over time, we were able to identify the compromise, isolate the ransomware attack, and then respond and be able to reset passwords and all of that so that whoever is there is unable to get in. And my favorite quote, Sophos is there 24/7, so my team doesn't need to be. And a lot of times, if you have those internal resources that are committed to doing active threat hunting, you know, it could be a lot more cost efficient and cost effective for you to look at outsourcing that capability and realigning those internal resources to more revenue generating activity. So celiacs, this was all the priority for them. And I'm sure that a lot of people on this call have a very relatable story. You know, they're a relatively small team of 3 were responsible for all of the workforce management software, employee scheduling, time, all of that stuff. And they were looking for that solution to optimize AWS security posture, to block the attacks efficiently and prioritize all of the alerts that came from GuardDuty. And so we are very excited, you know, to have celiacs as a customer. But the partnership with Sophos wasn't primarily focused on product capabilities. What it was focused on was how we distinguish ourselves in helping Dinesh and this team realize a very clear and replicatable cybersecurity strategy. one any business would do well to follow. Designing the environment to adhere to best practice standards established by AWS with tools in place to verify that security checklist and alert in real time to deviations. So look beyond the vendor technology to the threat intelligence as well. What scale does the vendor operate at? How frequently are updates made available to the hosts? And how lightweight is the agent to reduce resource consumption? And look for ways to increase the efficiency of your own teams internally with the managed threat response service to stay current on the security events with proactively managed detection, investigation, and remediation. So I am going to kick it over to Bill Prout to do a quick demo of Cloud Optics and Sophos Central to give a little bit of an idea of what it actually looks like. So thanks for listening. Bill, take it away.
Thanks, Scott. And thanks to everybody for joining today's webinar. Now we're going to take a quick look at the Sophos Cloud Optics Cloud Security Posture Management Solution. Cloud Optics is a key part of the Sophos Threat Protection Monitoring and Response Package, as it acts as an integration point for AWS Security Services, Sophos Solutions, and a variety of IT operations and incident response tools. From a customer's perspective, it all starts with Sophos Central, which is the cloud-based SaaS management console that is used to manage Sophos solutions and services, gather information on activities and threats, use built-in query tools for IT ops activities and threat hunting across devices and our data lake. And it's also where you can interact with the Sophos Managed Threat Response Service. To access Cloud Optics, we simply need to click on the product icon, which then takes us to the summary dashboard screen, where we can find high-level information on alerts, our compliance status, and any changes which may be occurring in our cloud environments. This and more detailed information is delivered via the agentless connection between Cloud Optics and your cloud environments. Setting these connections up is a simple process, and in the case of AWS, can be done for one or multiple accounts. Cloud Optics supports a variety of different cloud environment types, including Kubernetes, infrastructure as code repositories, and container registries. And once connected to Optics, each of these environments is continually scanned to provide visibility and to help with security and compliance management. Along with cloud environments, Cloud Optics can also integrate with a variety of other systems to support security information aggregation, IT ticketing, alert notification, and to support incident response, remediation, and threat hunting activities. Shortly after Cloud Optics is configured, it will start displaying a comprehensive inventory of all assets that are found in the cloud environments. This information is displayed with color coding to immediately draw attention to potential security issues or misconfigurations. The inventory section also provides filters to add in additional context to help with investigations or to support security hygiene activities. So, for example, you could quickly determine which hosts are accessible from the public internet and also add additional context by viewing associated AWS Inspector information to determine your vulnerability. This view also shows off the integration of Sophos Cloud Optics and our InterceptX server agents, which is another piece of our threat protection, monitoring, and response package. From the host inventory section, you can easily determine which of your EC2 instances are protected by InterceptX agents and which are not. This helps an organization protect itself against shadow IT type activities, which can lead to security and compliance issues. This same level of detail is available for the other cloud resources and services, including the Identity and Access Management Service. Cloud Optics not only displays an inventory of IAM entities such as users and roles, but it also highlights areas relating to security best practices, such as if MFA is enabled or not, the password and key ages, and it also displays information on what AWS services that IAM entity has access to, which have not been used recently, and those are especially important to take notice of. We also provide a very useful IAM visualization tool, which shows the relationship between IAM entities and key services such as S3 or Lambda. Using this tool, you can easily see exactly how a user can access a resource, the permissions associated with that resource, if that user has actually used his permissions recently, and if not, how you as an administrator can reduce those permissions to implement least privilege. Optics also provides similar analysis for network traffic and API activity, which can help identify outbound traffic to known bad locations, can identify high-risk API events that could indicate a problem, and even analyzes your cloud spend to help with proper management, but also to identify anomalies, which could indicate malicious activity, such as crypto mining exploits. Along with these visibility tools, Optics also uses both out-of-the-box and custom policies to continually assess your environments against both security and compliance standards. It then creates a variety of reports detailing which checks passed and which failed, and it shows that information both upon demand and over time. Along with reports, Optics also generates actionable alerts, which can be used for threat hunting and as part of automated and manual incident response activities. Alerts are generated by the continuous policy scanning, by the Sophos artificial intelligence, by native cloud security services such as AWS GuardDuty and Security Hub, and based upon scanning of infrastructure as code or container images. Each alert provides details on the issue, a description of why it's an issue, and then provides details on how to remediate the issue if it's a misconfiguration. Alerts and their details can be used to create tickets via integration with systems such as Jira or ServiceNow. They could be sent to Slack or Teams channels for notifications, or they could be sent to a webhook to kick off some type of automated remediation activity using something like a Lambda function. And of course, using the built-in MTR connector, Cloud Optics is also feeding alerts to our MTR service team to help them identify potential indicators of compromise and to aid them in active threat hunting. So that was a short demo of Sophos Cloud Optics, which hopefully gave you a better understanding of the solution's capabilities and how it works with both AWS and Sophos security services. To wrap up our webinar today, let's just review what we've discussed and then provide some links to additional resources that can help you with any further questions. By offering your customers this package, you will help them reduce business risk, increase their cloud security posture, and fill cybersecurity skills gaps, addressing 3 important areas. First, resources. For a lot of IT teams, large and small, it's not realistic to keep a team monitoring security around the clock. And so, the Sophos Managed Threat Response Team adds expert resources without adding extra headcount. The team takes proactive action and applies security updates as regularly as possible, preemptively reaching out and advising customers on recommended next steps. And with lots of moving parts in an organization's cloud environment, this support is hugely valuable. Second, skills. Cloud security incidents could be proactively prevented with proper configuration and a good understanding of the cloud provider's shared responsibility model. Sophos Threat Protection Monitoring and Response Package layers the correct security tools on top of AWS to block advanced threats and will cut through alert noise to help in-house teams or partners know what AWS service alerts to prioritize, with guided remediation to help fix them proactively. And third, IT budgets. Forrester predicts 17% of all B2B transactions will be through e-commerce and marketplaces by 2023 as companies shift to subscription and consumption models. By allowing customers to purchase the Sophos package through AWS Marketplace, they not only combine cloud infrastructure and security in one invoice to achieve greater executive alignments across security and infrastructure teams, they also potentially shorten the sales cycle. But Sophos purchases in AWS Marketplace also help customers' IT budgets go further. 50% of the TCV of Sophos purchases will count towards any contracted consumption commitments in place between the customer and AWS, helping them reach that commitment sooner and lower their exposure. So finally, let's wrap up with a few resources that you can use for more information. We have a 1-minute webinar link, a link to our solutions page, which contains a ton of detailed information about the Sophos products and services we just talked about. And lastly, our team email address so that we can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar, and please use that contact info to reach out with any questions you may have about how Sophos can help with your cloud security challenges.